If you grew up in America in the 1960s, 70s, or 80s, you probably remember walking through those familiar red Kmart doors. There were clothes, toys, housewares, garden supplies, and if you were lucky, maybe a blue light special somewhere across the store. But there is something else millions of shoppers remember that seems almost strange today. You could sit down inside Kmart and eat dinner. And these were not always tiny snack counters hidden beside the checkout lanes. Some Kmart stores had cafeterias, coffee shops, and even full family restaurants where shoppers could sit at a table and order a real meal. So how did one of America's biggest discount stores end up in the restaurant business? And how did something so many families remember disappear almost completely?
To understand the cafeteria, you have to remember what a trip to Kmart used to be. For many families, this was not a 5-minute stop to pick up one item. You might shop for school clothes, look through the toy department, buy something for the house, and wander past aisle after aisle before anyone was ready to leave. If the children were hungry, the parents were tired, or the shopping trip simply lasted longer than expected, having food right inside the store made perfect sense. You did not have to load everyone back into the car and start looking for a restaurant somewhere else. You could stop, sit down, eat, and then go right back to shopping. The meal became part of the Kmart trip itself.
For people who remember those cafeterias, the memories are often surprisingly specific. They remember the rows of tables, the orange and brown decor, the fluorescent lights, and the sound of a tray sliding along the counter. There might be coffee, grilled cheese sandwiches, fries, pie, pudding, or a hot dinner that was inexpensive enough for an ordinary family to stop without turning the day into a special occasion. A Kmart cafeteria advertisement from 1977 offered complete meals at prices that seem almost impossible today. But the food was only part of what people remember. For a child, it might have been sitting down with mom after shopping for school clothes. For someone else, it was coffee with a parent, a sandwich after work, or simply a place to rest before heading back through the store. These were not glamorous restaurants. That may be exactly why people remember them so clearly. They were part of ordinary life. And sometimes the ordinary things are the ones that stay with us the longest.
The restaurant side of Kmart was much bigger than a few unusual stores. By the 1970s, Kmart had a real food operation that included restaurants, cafeterias, coffee shops, snack bars, and other food departments throughout the chain. The company's own 1976 annual report even showed Kmart Food Operations Director Harold Wilcox visiting one of its restaurants. And the numbers revealed just how seriously Kmart took the business. During that period, the company was adding new restaurants, coffee shops, snack bars, and dozens of standard Kmart cafeterias. This was not some forgotten experiment operating in a handful of locations. Feeding shoppers had become a recognizable part of the Kmart experience. For many customers, seeing a cafeteria inside a discount store did not seem strange at all. It was simply part of Kmart.
But there was never just one single kind of Kmart restaurant. Some stores had the familiar cafeteria toward the rear, where customers carried trays and selected their food from a counter. Other locations had coffee shops or smaller snack counters. And some stores operated full-service restaurants, where customers could sit at a table and have a meal that felt much closer to an ordinary family restaurant. That helps explain why two people can both remember eating at Kmart and describe two completely different places. One person remembers standing in a cafeteria line with a tray. Another remembers booths, table service, or a restaurant separated from the rest of the store. Someone else remembers only popcorn, a hot dog, or a frozen drink near the front entrance. They were all remembering Kmart, just different versions of it.
But Kmart's interest in food
did not stop inside the store. In 1967, the company tried something even more ambitious. It created its own freestanding fast food restaurant concept called Kmart Chef. The first Kmart Chef opened in the parking lot of a Kmart in Pontiac, Michigan. More locations followed. They served the kind of simple fast food Americans already understood: hamburgers, cheeseburgers, hot dogs, fish sandwiches, French fries, shakes, coffee, and quick meals. For a short time, Kmart was not merely operating cafeterias inside discount stores. It was trying to operate a restaurant brand of its own. But Kmart Chef was different from the cafeterias inside Kmart stores. And despite the company's ambitions, Kmart Chef never became another McDonald's or Burger King. The experiment faded away. The restaurants inside Kmart, however, continued.
The old Kmart cafeteria did not disappear everywhere on the same day. Instead, Kmart food gradually began to look different. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, American shopping and eating habits were changing. Customers increasingly expected familiar national brands, faster service, and food that looked more like what they saw in shopping mall food courts. One of Kmart's biggest changes came through Little Caesars. In 1991, Kmart and Little Caesars announced plans to put Little Caesars restaurants into hundreds of Kmart stores. For shoppers, the difference was easy to see. The old cafeteria atmosphere was gradually giving way to pizza stations, faster service, branded food, and newer K-Cafe formats. Kmart was still feeding people, but it was no longer quite the same Kmart restaurant many families remembered from the 1970s.
And this is where the story becomes surprising. You might assume that by the late 1990s, Kmart food service had become a tiny leftover from another era. It hadn't. In 1997, a grocery industry publication reported that Kmart was operating about 1,850 K-Cafes. Together, they were producing more than $350 million a year in food service sales. Little Caesars was already supplying food to more than 500 Kmart in-store restaurants. So the idea of eating at Kmart had not simply died in the 1980s. It had survived, changed its appearance, and remained a surprisingly large business much later than many people realize. Which raises an even bigger question. If Kmart was still serving that much food in the late 1990s, how did the restaurants disappear so completely from American life?
There was no single moment when every Kmart cafeteria in America shut its doors. The change happened slowly. The older cafeteria model gave way to K-cafes, pizza stations, smaller food counters, converted retail space, or simply nothing at all. At the same time, Kmart itself was entering a much more difficult period. Competition became stronger, stores aged, shopping habits changed, and the company began closing locations. As the Kmart chain became smaller, the food operation lost the huge network of stores that had once supported it. Spaces that had once held tables, coffee cups, and lunch trays were sometimes converted back into ordinary retail floors. Clothing racks appeared where people once sat down for lunch. A restaurant entrance disappeared behind merchandise. And because this happened store by store over many years, the Kmart restaurant did not vanish with one dramatic announcement. It simply faded away. Until one day, it was no longer part of the Kmart people knew.
Yet one remarkable Kmart restaurant survived much longer than most people would expect. In Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, a Kmart that had once been a Grant City store continued operating a full-service family restaurant decades after most others had disappeared. Photographs from the 2010s show something that already looked like a piece of another era. Outside the restaurant were racks of merchandise. Inside were dining tables, booths, and the familiar K-Cafe family restaurant signs. Customers could still shop at Kmart and then sit down for a meal under the same roof. By that point,
The restaurant was no longer a glimpse of Kmart's future. It was a surviving piece of Kmart's past. One of the last reminders of a time when eating inside a discount store was completely normal.
Ask people about the old Kmart cafeteria today, and they rarely talk only about the food. They remember who they were with. They remember being children and shopping with their parents. They remember stopping for lunch, getting a frozen drink, sharing fries, drinking coffee, or sitting at a table while the rest of the store waited just beyond the restaurant. A grilled cheese sandwich or a cup of coffee became attached to something much larger. An ordinary afternoon that nobody realized would someday become a memory of a vanished America. What disappeared was not simply a cafeteria. It was a version of shopping where one store could take up half your day. You could buy clothes, look at toys, pick up something for the house, stop for a meal, and then continue shopping without ever leaving the building. Maybe your Kmart had a cafeteria. Maybe it had a grill, a K-Cafe, a Little Caesars, or a full family restaurant. If it did, what do you remember eating there? And what is the one thing about your old Kmart that you still miss today?